So let's do introductions again. But let's do it the right way. So Karen, I've been introduced to you by the producer of this podcast, Chris Broadhead. And when I saw your LinkedIn profile, I was like, what? You are a humor researcher? Like, yep. That's my passion. I love comedy. That's from what I can tell, Vic's passion as well. So it's almost like we get to peek a little bit behind the curtain of like how, someone who's actually studied comedy sees it, and might even help us understand ourselves or what we do. Now, Vic, I know because, you do some comedy-related stuff for the corporate world. You probably have a better understanding of this than I do. But I thought that was, from all the things you've done, Karen, the Chicago police and working with the government and becoming a PhD, you're a doctor, right? I don't know how many people can say they worked as an undercover prostitute for the Chicago police and they have a doctorate. Oh, I bet no one can say that.
That's a good point, actually. That might become my new mission statement or tagline.
I just picture your business card. It's like former prostitute, doctor. It's like it just would be such a weird. People are like, wait, this isn't real. No, it sounds like a sitcom. Honestly, it sounds like you could totally
on that. Yeah.
There's definitely content ideas, but that's awesome. But
the humor is something that everybody can relate to. So I like that as a topic to study scientifically, because a lot of academic research is a bit of a snore, to be honest, and difficult to process and apply to mainstream. So humor is something that no matter who I'm talking to, they're like, yeah, I totally get it. And so I wanted to look at it at the application of the workplace. So been at jobs where I freaking hated it. I'm looking at the clock all day, feel totally unsatisfied, totally unfulfilled. But if you bring in that element of humor, it tends to help employees get engaged, be more creative, help with difficult situations. Like right now in the ER, and nurses and doctors, they're using like that dark gallows humor to cope. They just are, because they have to. Same thing with law enforcement and military. They use humor to help cope with difficult situations. So I just love that topic because it's been found scientifically to have numerous benefits. And this, I'm talking about positive humor, not like, negative or racial or gender.
Degrading, yeah.
Positive humor.
Karen,
shown to have great benefit in the workplace.
So Karen, you're currently the Chief Customer Officer, is that right?
Yes.
At Sip Science, which is a company that has an app that gets beverages to people who are basically signed up on the app. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we bring a membership that will offer half price discounts on alcohol through our app.
Got it. Yes. All right. So it's almost like, would you say almost like the Instacart of alcoholic beverages?
It's specifically for inside bars and restaurants. So you don't want to pay $16 for that fancy martini. You download our app and purchase a membership, and then you can get a certain number of drinks at half price.
Nice. Got it. Okay. So at this company you work at, would you say the company is successfully using humor to relieve tensions, lighten the load, and make the work environment more positive, especially more psychologically positive?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a small, agile group of us in the executive leadership team, and we've had to pivot, obviously, with everything that's going on in the world. We had set for this big, huge launch in New York, and then we were going to come to Chicago. All of that's on hold. So if we didn't use humor, we'd probably be curled up in a fetal position with one sock on. So we definitely had to use humor to adjust. But we were using it even in our marketing and our branding and on social, because we want to bring an air of like fun and more experience, and you don't have to spend 75% of your disposable income on alcohol. You can go out, have a nice experience, and not break the budget. What we found, a lot of consumers have champagne tastes, but they're going to the dive bar because the dive bar is what they can afford.
Right. Well, here's my issue with all this, right? Sip Science, I think, makes sense where you can bring in the humor. It's a small, agile team. But I got to tell you, I worked at JP Morgan for a decade, and by the end of it, I was like, get me the fuck out of here, because everyone has got, a stick up their ass, and you can't have fun. And the fun that is had, it feels like it's done only by management, often in a not crude way, but like
mandatory fun.
Yeah, maybe mandatory fun, but also because they're the big swinging dicks making a whole bunch of money. Because they're the big swinging dicks making a whole bunch of money, like it's easy for them to have fun. And there was this weird class structure, I felt like, and I was like, fuck this, I got to get out of here. Because a big part of my life was humor and fun, and I'm like, I'm not having it here. My soul is just curling up and dying on the floor with one sock on, you know?
Imagine if you brought, though, your humor to your team or the people around you at work. What would have happened?
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
I think.
Go ahead, Vic.
I was going to say, I think that's what drew me to the startup world. And I'm sure, Karen, you can attest to this as well. It's just it's a lot more, there's less of that kind of classist feeling. And there's also just more of the people are friends like outside of work. Like people, we actually hung out together. People like aren't just like they clock in, they go home. Like there's this sense of community in a startup. I think that I found I could actually tell people I did comedy. Like I didn't tell people I did stand up at United at all. I was like, I was very scared to like anyone know about my passions like outside of work, because I just was like, it's just a job and I'm here to make money and that's it. But once I started working at startups, I was like, oh, this is like, I can be myself at work. Yeah. I can be a little bit more fluid. And the humor, I think, came naturally because like, that's kind of what I'm drawn to. So it was, I think it is a huge thing with startup culture is like they try to incorporate it, but it can be done, I think, in the wrong way. But for a really good startup, I think they do it the right way and they try to make it part of, you know, they try to make, because it is like a very fast moving ships and it's a lot of like stress. So they have to use humor kind of in the same way, not with the same dire circumstances as like cops and military people do, but at the same time, it's a stressful situation like all the time. So they need to relieve the tension somehow.
So that's my point. At United, at JP Morgan, by the way, guys, assistant producer John Dolder, who helps us record all these, will probably be joining us. So you may see another person pop in here in just a minute. That's my point. So United, JP Morgan, the environment, Karen, almost feels like if Vic or I were to try and introduce humor, I mean, maybe I was too young. I was in my 20s. So maybe it was just an issue around time. But it felt to me like I'd be taking a big risk in a negative way, like hurting myself if I put myself out there in that way. It's almost like the environment did not allow for it or just wasn't conducive for it, or actually the environment would not reward me with likability necessarily. Maybe I'm wrong, but did you look into that at all? Or Karen, you've worked at some of these bigger companies, so you have this experience. So
I died a slow death. Yeah, I totally experienced it, and that's why I will not go back there. But essentially what we're trying to say with our research is we're giving you permission to start to interject humor into the workplace because it is somewhat risky. And studies show that if you use humor, you are seen as more likable, but you may not be seen as competent. So it is a little bit risky there to show that side. But leaders that show humor are actually rated higher and rated as better leaders when they do use humor. So it helps when you're in that leadership role to set kind of the tone at the top for the culture and sprinkle it in with your employees. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you are saying at a leadership level, the evidence is really strong about bringing in that comedy.
Yes.
Indeed, a junior guy walking in, the analyst, a first year, a second year, a third year, if he just comes in,
people just stand up and like, yeah.
I'm picturing myself standing on the trading floor trying to do stand up.
Yeah, but if it was on my team at United and I found out that you did, I would love to know that you did comedy. I would want to know that about you. But that's also part of being a good leader is like knowing your people and what makes them
Of course. Yeah, it comes, I think the top-down comment is, that's like with any change or any cultural shift. I think at United, it just was this, it was very segmented and siloed. So I think there wasn't that kind of overarching, person to be like let's recognize this person has, other skills. It did help me find a girlfriend, but that's a separate, that was at work. I ended up dating someone who worked on my floor. And the whole reason was because like her friend at work was like, oh, he does stand up, like he does improv. Like that was like my way in, is that she kept telling her that I was like different than everyone else there.
Yeah, I'd be mad if you didn't tell me if you worked for me. I would want to know. But I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Big Four consulting firm. Same thing. They didn't want you to really have anything else going on in your life. When I first started there, within 4 weeks, they're like, they pulled me into a partner's office. They're like, people are complaining about you because there's pictures of you on the internet holding guns. And I'm like, well, fuck, everybody's already talking about me and made some perceptions about me. So,
yeah.
And they kind of want you to just fit in this box and the robot. And when you can't talk about being involved in comedy, that causes like incongruity in your personal life because you're not being your true authentic self at work. So that causes like psychological distress to a degree.
Okay, Karen, this is you really do have to own the fact that this is a super interesting life that you've lived. So you go to PricewaterhouseCoopers after you spent time with the Chicago Police. You were a Chicago police officer for 10 years, and during that time, you worked as an undercover prostitute, or some of that time. Is that some of what you did?
Yeah, I worked on a gang team. I worked as an undercover prostitute, undercover narcotics, and then worked for intelligence and counterterrorism, and then for the superintendent of police, which is the chief executive officer, top guy.
Right, of the police department, right.
Yeah.
Who always, especially the last decade or two, has been getting a ton of shit, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, I worked for the first one that came from the outside the department in over 50 years. So usually if somebody within the ranks moves up. Right. I had to force the first guy that came from the outside, and he was a Fed, so he was embattled from the beginning.
What was his name?
Jody Weiss.
Oh, is it a man or a woman?
A man, yeah.
Okay,
big muscular guy. You may have seen him.
Yeah, I typically do know a lot of these guys, but that name I don't remember. I also lived out of the country for a couple of years, maybe around.
Okay. Yeah.
But okay, so did you? Okay, I'm just so fascinated by this idea of being an undercover prostitute. So like, I mean, this is a dumb question, but it's serious too. Like, did you take acting classes?
No, not at all. I just got all dirty. I didn't look like this, clearly. I mean, this is like crack hose. This is not like a nice prostitute. This is like crack hose.
I was going to say, this is not like a high-end escort. You're not like a Vegas. This is like
Armitage and Pulaski, Division and Cicero crack hose.
Shit, that's not far from where I live. Well, what's up, John Dolder? All right, guys, John Dolder joined. Do not be scared. This is normal look, everyone. Do not be scared. This is normal.
Hey.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
What's up?
How you doing, John?
Good. How have you been, Amr?
Good, brother, man. Sorry we're not in person here, but that's all good. Are you working, John, or no?
Yeah, I'm still working.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, John, we're just in the middle of a crazy story. Please quickly meet Karen and Vic. Say what's up.
Hey, Karen. Hey, Vic.
Hello.
All right. So, John, we're in the middle of a story here. Just catch up to us. So,
right.
Sanford Meisner says that acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. I guess you don't need acting because they weren't imaginary circumstances in a way. Like you're really with, people who are looking for, whatever, prostitutes.
Love, looking for some love.
Okay.
So you get dressed up. Like this would be like at the police station. You're like in the locker room, like, what would a prostitute wear? Is that how you actually work? Or did somebody do your makeup and shit?
No, just my partner. I had a female partner. We went out there together, obviously for safety reasons, and we would just kind of dirty ourselves up. I mean, these are people that we had dealt with previously, so we knew kind of what the end user looked like, if you will.
Right. But they were obviously different than the people you were going into. You never met them, obviously, right?
No, of course not. Yeah.
All right, so then you go in, so you get dressed up at the station, you jump in a different car, obviously, and then
walk to a corner. And then literally just start trying to sell yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious in those areas what women on the corner are doing typically.
Right.
And we were, like I said, purposely dirty. I mean, I didn't look like this, so.
Right.
Yeah, and there may have been some drinking involved too, so that we smell like alcohol. And
right.
I mean, it happens pretty fast.
Wow, how long did you do that undercover work?
I did it throughout my career, so I worked plain clothes, so not in uniform, and anytime they needed a decoy, they would pull my partner and I to be decoys.
All right, so let's say Vic one day is driving by Division in Pulaski.
Why do I have to be the person?
Familiar.
I'm like, Pulaski, huh? Oh, no.
So let's say Vic walks up one day, or pulls up one day in his Cadillac, and he's looking for some love.
He's like, hey, baby.
Yeah, hey, baby. What's your name? Did you have a name like Cinnamon or Cookies or something like that?
Like a gemstone? No.
Jade.
It's called Operation Angel, so.
Really? So wait, did you call yourself Angel?
I think we just use our regular name. I mean, you don't get, it's really not, you don't need to know the name, I guess. So
okay, yeah.
Yeah, you don't really buy a prostitute for the name.
So you discuss what you want, the dollar amount, and then it's pretty much,
You guys clearly don't know marketing, because I mean, Vic has choices. All right.
I think if you're going to a prostitute like that, I think you're. That's it. That's the final stop. I don't think you're doing shopping. Yeah, you're not price comparing. You're going in like this is it. You know.
We would do it in the winter, and we'd be freezing our asses off. So we
shut up. The winter.
Both of us, $5, and they'd be like, "All right, yeah."
Yeah.
No, really.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, so then do you guys jump in? You guys jump in Vic's Cadillac at this point? At what point do you fucking arrest the guy?
No, as soon as the transaction is made, you do the takedown signal, whatever that might be, and then the person and their vehicle are taken down.
Okay, so other people from the outside come in and take care of it.
Yeah.
Damn. Yo, this is movie kind of shit. Am I wrong, guys?
It's crazy. Yeah.
I just watched Tiger King last night for the first time. I'm not gonna lie. I'm more entertained right now than I was last night.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this stupid Tiger King. I want to see this.
Oh, you got to see it. It's good.
It's good? Okay.
So at some point, did the prostitute consumers figure out you and your partner were doing this, or were you guys able to successfully stay undercover the whole time?
No, they don't know. And so when they would get taken down, we would run off like, we're,
right.
Because you don't want to go from a place of undercover to enforcement. That's very dangerous.
Very, yeah.
So we would just stay undercover the entire time. Plus, we want to keep the round robin of people coming throughout the night.
Right. Damn.
And people are watching, so.
Am I the only one super fascinated by this, or Vic and John, is this interesting to you guys at all?
No, this is pretty interesting.
It's crazy.
There's another operation called Operation Angelo. So we would have male undercovers, and I had a male partner at the time, and we would go to the bird sanctuary at Diversey Harbor, and my partner would go in there undercover because that's where a lot of solicitation happens for male on male. And he would always say that was like the scariest thing he's ever done in his whole career, was going to the bird sanctuary undercover.
That's kind of funny that the bird sanctuaries or the men were like, let's do it here. Let's go to the bird sanctuary.
I don't know. Yeah. He would come out and be like all skittish, like they were coming out of the bushes with like tissues and lotion and.
I'm picturing a mating call. Of like, caw, caw, caw.
Yeah, so be careful when you go to the bird sanctuary.
I'll make sure I keep that in mind next time.
That's gonna be my little fact. I'm gonna tell all the kids that are there. I'm like, hey, there's like male prostitutes get solicited here when I'm like just there hanging out.
That's gonna be one of my points about the city when I have family visiting.
Yeah, it's a good little
let's go to the bird sanctuary.
John,
there was this big, tough guy, and he would come out and they're so scared.
Oh man, hell yeah.
Funny.
All right, so now were you scared, Karen? Like, at what level did you feel like you were in danger or not?
That's a great question. So normal police work, I did not feel scared. Like, I like chasing people. I like car chases. I like putting myself in danger. But the undercover is different because you don't have a radio. At the time, we were not allowed to have undercover weapons. So I couldn't have like a small 380 or a knife or anything on me. That was against policy for the department. So you're really out there vulnerable. So that was a different feeling.
You're really out there what?
You're out there vulnerable. So that's a different feeling than normal police work. Not that the uniform and the radio and all of that does anything, but it's just a very different feeling. So that to me was the scariest work that I did on the job.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone is ringing the back door at the restaurant. I guess they don't have a key. Guys, continue on, please. I'm going to open the door for the cook that's coming. Hang on a second.
How did you make the pivot? Like how did you decide what you wanted to do after the police work? Like, did it just naturally, you kind of touched on a little bit, but I mean, going from, it sounds like did you work at Motorola right after? What was the first kind of corporate gig that you had?
Yeah, Motorola was the first corporate gig. And that's a great question. I get that question all the time. And I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So in 5 years, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try comedy by then.
You should.
Yeah. So after I got dumped from the superintendent's office and sent back to patrol in midnight and just kind of a pariah on the job because I worked for the superintendent that nobody liked, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I should go do something different. I did get my master's degree along the way. And so I looked for a job in the private sector, which was difficult because being the police was like my existence. It was who I was. So it was very difficult to leave that behind and then go pursue something totally different. So I found the role. It was great because their core customer is public safety and law enforcement, and I knew that very well. And so I went into the organization being one of the only people who has law enforcement experience there in a 10,000 person organization. So it served me really, really well there.
Nice. That's awesome.
And so here's my question, right? You're talking about PricewaterhouseCoopers, I assume?
Transition from CPD to Motorola.
Oh, to Motorola. So is that where people then saw pictures of you on the internet with guns?
That was at PwC. At Motorola, it was cool. Like, people were like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, we could use this for product development. At PwC, it was like, oh my God, she's has a gun. I'm scared.
Wow. Look at that. We just saw corporate culture at two different.
I know. I was like, you know what? I'm full of tattoos too. Oh my God. Run, hide your children, hide your wife.
That is, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Karen. You're a fucking badass. That's just.
I'm not anymore. I'm old, but yeah, that's okay. I find different ways to be a badass.
So yeah, at PW. So why do you think at Motorola they embraced it more and found it cool versus PwC?
Their core customer is public safety, and so they're developing products specifically for law enforcement, and smartly they wanted to understand their end user better.
Got it. Okay, so that makes sense.
I had a training company while I was on the police department, and we brought the exact same training, active shooter training that we did for law enforcement, to Motorola engineers and marketers and leadership. And they went through it just like a law enforcement officer would. And it was super brave and super awesome that they let us do that. I mean, they would come in, get a little bit of lecture on like what to do in a situation, get a simunition weapon that fires just like a real gun, and we'd put them through scenarios.
This is at the corporation. You went through, you mimicked a scenario where if an active shooter walked into Motorola's building or Motorola's offices, how everyone would respond? Yes.
So we did all types of scenarios, not necessarily just coming into Motorola, but we would queue up all different types of scenarios. We had a shoot house, so a building that had movable walls, and we could set up any sort of environment that we want. And then we would put them through that training. And then they have to make decisions: shoot, don't shoot. What do you do in this situation? How do you use a radio in this situation? And we'd have them do like jumping jacks beforehand so that like your heart rate is up.
Right.
It's very different under stress. I mean, think if you were in a car accident and you're taking out your phone to dial 911, like you can't even move your fingers. So we're trying to get them to simulate that stress, to inoculate them against the stress in a real situation.
Yeah. It's almost like taking a vaccine in a way.
Yeah.
That's all that's on my mind with Corona. Sorry.
For the Motorolans to go through it, and very brave of them to do that.
Right. So wait, by the way, Vic and Karen, is this, and maybe even John, I don't know, I haven't been in the corporate world in over almost a decade. Is active shooter exercises or training something in the corporate world? Is that a thing right now in the corporate world? Do people go through this?
I mean, I could do some. Yeah, I've done some. I mean, it's like a real thing. People are like, it's an actual threat. Usually they do it, like at the bigger companies, they just do like a video or something. Like that's kind of cool that you actually got through it.
Same.
Yeah, the video was really funny. It was like a bad movie. It was like this guy just walks in with a shotgun and shoots the receptionist in the face, and it was like really graphic. And we're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, what are you showing us? But it was like really violent for no reason, but then didn't help us in any way. And then we were just like, it was like a very entertaining, but for the wrong reason.
John, at UPS, you had the same thing?
Not at UPS, but when I worked at a seasonal job at Gap, they made me watch a video about what to do for an active shooter. And this guy was in like all black, and then had like clearly like a Nerf gun with the orange tip spray painted black. When he busted into the office, like everyone is like, you're supposed to run away or something. Like everyone did this like really Scooby-Doo kind of run away from the shooter. And then for no reason, like in the middle of the video, they did a little cut scene to his shoe, and his shoe was a New Balance. And if you don't know about Gap, they own New Balance. So I was like, that's good product placement.
Oh, wow. There's product placement in the shooter video.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
So, okay, wait. So, but at Motorola, it sounds like you all went through something or you put them through something totally different. Is that right, Karen?
Yeah, we put them through the same training that law enforcement would go through. So it's a day-long, hour-long training at a shoot house with simunition weapons, real scenarios as you could possibly get, where they have to make decisions, act in these stressful situations.
Now, as part of all this, at some point, is Motorola or was Motorola provided with weapons in case there's an active shooter? Like, does a manager or someone have access to a weapon on site?
Oh, I see where you're going. So we were doing it for education purposes because we brought in folks that were working on products for law enforcement. So how can you design a product for law enforcement if you've never like walked a day in the life of their shoes? So ours was more for education. I see what you're saying. So proactive for security for a company. So when I was at PwC, we actually sold this type of service to companies. It was a tough sell though. Unless an incident happened, companies just are not going to spend money on active shooter preparation.
Yeah.
Which is terrible.
I guess they need to see the threat. I guess they would need to see the threat more before they start hiring for this, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, unless there was an incident, then we'd get a bunch of calls, and then it would kind of die down, and then another incident happens, and then it kind of dies down.
Damn. Okay, so let's keep going on the Ferris wheel of Karen Bartuch's life.
No, I feel bad. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no. We're trying to.
This is way more interesting than a comedian's life. This is like crazy shit. But
We're as comedians, we're here to have fun with your stories. This is amazing.
Oh, we would record it and play it back and absolutely make fun of everybody through their scenarios for sure. That was part of the training.